All right, hello. Welcome back to Afternoon Drive here on Joppa Radio on a beautiful Thursday afternoon here. Just one of those nice New England days. A little bit of a fall feel in the air, which has kind of been the thing here as of late, which is nice. It's going to be about my favorite time of year, the fall, summer winding down, all that stuff. So just absolutely beautiful around here. Hello to everybody on the radio and streaming at home. My name is Drew Moholland, and this is Afternoon Drive on Joppa Radio. Very excited about our show today. I got the one and only Mike Lynch in the house here today. Longtime sportscaster for Channel 5 WCVB in Boston, and this is going to be great. So what I'm going to do is just give a quick hello, get out of the way. We'll come back, bring in Mike and all that good stuff. Don't forget, you can follow us at Joppa Afternoons on Twitter. That's at Joppa Afternoons. Thank you all for the questions that you sent me today as well. I asked for questions last night, and I got more than I ever have for any guest, so that is good. A lot of people have a lot of questions for Mike Lynch today, so I'll try to get to them all. Luckily, a lot of them overlap with what I was going to ask anyway, so that is a good thing. And don't forget, go to ncmhub.org, ncmhub.org. Get copies of all the past shows, podcasts, and that's actually where you want to be if you're streaming this at home. I got a lot of questions about that for the show as well. How can we watch it? I'm not going to be at home or not going to be in the car, that sort of thing. So top right, click on the SoundCloud, top on YouTube if you want to watch it, that sort of thing. You can watch it live and all that. ncmhub.org. All right, a lot going on in the news today. Go, it's Thursday. I don't want to get too into all the news headlines. Let's just, I'll get out of the way, bring back Mike in just a minute. Afternoon Drive continues in just a moment. All right, welcome back to Afternoon Drive here on Joppa Radio. My name is Drew Moholland. Mike Lynch joining us today. Very excited about this, the legendary sports anchor here in Boston. Mike, how are you? Great to have you on board.
Great, Drew. Great to be here in the great city of Newburyport.
I know you love it. Well, you've been here plenty of times. Actually, I think the first time I met you was on the field of a Thanksgiving football game here in Newburyport. It was the day they were inducting the Stalin.
They dedicated the field to Jim Stalin, one of the great guys, great coaches, somebody I've known since I was about 5 years old, and I was thrilled to be up here to and it turned out to be a great game. The game went to overtime, and Newburyport won, and they stopped a 2-point conversion from Amesbury, and it was dedication of the new field, and it was a feel-good day.
Yeah, absolutely. Good memory out of you, too. I know you've seen plenty of football games. But well, we'll get to that stuff in a bit. But first of all, how are you enjoying retirement? Congratulations. It's quite an achievement. Almost 4 decades. Unbelievable at one place. Crazy.
Yeah, it's a little hard. It's like getting off an off ramp at 70 miles an hour and hitting a stop sign and saying, "Okay, get out of the car." That's it. There's no winding down. There's no slow progression because the newscast is the newscast every night, and it just ended, and I turned out the lights like Mary Tyler Moore did on the last show, and
I saw that. You put that on Twitter.
I
right?
did, yeah. I said, so I had my fingers. I did it, and the door closed right in front of me with one take, and that was it.
It was very nice. Actually, it was very nice, really, from all of Boston and beyond. I saw a lot of nice tributes your way. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I know that, and I saw you were trying to respond to as many people as you could, but there was probably too many to respond to. I saw tributes coming in from all over.
I tried to do it all, and I would lie in bed at night, and the voice dictate is the easiest thing. Thanks, Fred. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Jim.
Right. I bet that makes it easier. Yeah. What's a lot of golf, or what's the?
A little bit. I played yesterday. I'm going to play tomorrow, but I'm still. This is a difficult transition to get used to. I usually am out the door at 2:45 every day, and so today I had someplace to come to. So thanks for inviting me here.
Absolutely. Thanks for making the time.
And I'm still going to do part-time work at Channel 5, and I still would like to pick up some other work, radio, public speaking, maybe teaching, and it's kind of mix it all together, and so I have something to do most days every week.
Yeah, what's the? People I don't think realize, people that are probably younger than me, because I do remember it. I remember my parents, we would always watch the local news. And it was part of our routine. It was dinner time. It was the local news, and it was always Channel 5. I mean, for the longest time, you guys were. You guys were said to be the best local news station in the country.
One year, the New York Times hung that label on us. I don't know how they did, but we didn't ask. But we're very grateful for it, and we still ride that. And it's a bar that was set pretty high, and something we tried to live up to every single day.
Yeah, Chet and Natalie, of course.
Dickie,
Dickie
with the weather.
What was it like being with that crew? I mean, I imagine you have stories for
the rest
of your life.
It was great. They were just so, poor Chet and Dick have passed away. Yeah. Natalie and I are the only two survivors right now. But we were just having an awful lot of fun between, commercial breaks. And Dick was, he was sort of the punching bag, because you could really, dump on Dick all the time. And said, Dick, really? I said, it's sunny and bright yesterday. I said, we had 2 inches of rain in my front lawn. He says, all right, so I got one wrong.
I made a tea time.
Yeah.
That's funny. With the, it seemed like you guys were as close as could be. I mean, was it all true?
No, it's true. We were all very good friends. We would socialize when we could. We were working most at night, and you only have 2 nights off a week.
Yeah.
But just the high quality of high standards, and I remember the first day I walked in there in 1982, and I was shaking in my boots, and this woman walks over to me and says, "Hi, Mike. I'm Natalie Jacobson. Welcome to Channel 5." And I said, "No kidding. I thought you were like the cleaning lady." Really? But if someone, if her stature can walk over to a nobody who looks like he got off the wrong bus on Highland Avenue in Needham and welcome him there, I mean that's the kind of attitude, the kind of atmosphere that she fostered and everybody else around, and it's still there today.
They really paved the way for
it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You must have got that a lot too about just the comment I made about growing up with my parents and remembering that. I mean, you guys became a part of people's lives, really.
We did, and that's one of the things I see on social media. Oh, you were part of our dinner every single night. You were part of our nightly routine. We couldn't do anything till we watched Chet, Nat, Dickie, and Lynchy or Mike. Yeah. And it's really, I didn't know that many people cared. I wouldn't have retired if I knew that many people liked me.
Oh, that's too funny. It is a little. I mean, it's obviously the Channel 5 and all the Boston stations still do a good job, but it's a little bit different now, isn't it? Just there's so many other ways to get your news, and people are just doing different things, whether it be on their phones or whatever. But the local news has changed a little bit. Everybody's trying to be different, of course, but there was that kind of the heyday of just. I mean, it was you guys, and if you didn't get that, you had missed something. And
you had to wait till 11 o'clock, and you had to wait till 6 o'clock, and now we're on pretty much around the clock at 4:35, 5:36, 7, 10, 11, and on the tablets and iPads and wristwatches and you name it.
Yeah.
And it used to be a big deal if you had what you would consider a scoop, a trade that was coming, a free agent signing. If you found out at 11 o'clock in the morning, you were biting your fingernails till 6 o'clock. You said, "Oh, Lobel and John Dennis don't have it," And I said, "All right, the Bruins are going to sign Kevin Stevens," and they said, "Did they have it?" "Yes, we got it." And the converse would happen, like some of the news directors say, "How come you didn't have the story of Bobby Orr?" About that, and I said, so you'd get some scoops, you'd lose some scoops, and I kind of learned, don't get too high when you get a scoop, and don't feel too low against the curb when you get beat.
Yep. Yeah. Those guys you just mentioned, John Dennis and Bob Lobel. It's another really. I mean, the sports personalities in this town, they remain great, but and they were great then too. I read that Steve Buckley article that he did.
It's a great article. It went forever. Yeah, he did a great job.
They get you got to pay for that athletic subscription.
I know.
He's trying to make sure people get their money's worth. But he did a great job. I thought that was really good especially for I remember, like I said, I was young when you guys were all really firing. You outlasted Bob a little bit and all that, but I remember growing up, and the sports final was that was part of Sunday, and I remember Bob and you guys would always battle and try to get the scoops, as you said. And it was just kind of it was so different. Like it's now you go to Twitter and you get 20 other people that go, "I can confirm what he said," that sort of thing. It is a lot different. But what's the best? What's the thing you're going to miss the most? Is it the going to the ballpark and seeing the fellow beat reporters, or what?
I miss the nightly pressure of getting something on the air and putting a quality product on the air. Sitting in traffic and having to do a live shot before Bruins Stanley Cup game at 4 o'clock, and you run in. It's 2 minutes of 4. You haven't done your necktie on. You plug the thing in the ear and you get it in. I like that buzz. Getting off an airplane and hopping in an Uber and getting over to a Bruins practice in Carolina and getting on the air and getting an interview.
Adrenaline rush.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And that's what I miss the most is, I feel a little bit disconnected right now because, the pace is frenetic every single night with all the different newscasts we have now. Before, you'd get in the building at 3:30 and you came on at 6:20 for sports. So you had, 3 hours to prepare. Nowadays, if you come in at 3:30, we want you at the top of 4 o'clock news. That Rob Gronkowski is, not coming out of retirement. Or Tom Brady's on the injured list with a bad shoulder or something like that. And so you have like 20 minutes to throw your shirt and tie on, gather your information, and go out and then, regurgitate it to everybody. So that's changed a little bit.
And what, fill 3 minutes too?
Yeah, 3 minutes, When I first started, it was 9 minutes for sports in a 1 hour show from 6 to 7. And we used to take a commercial break in the middle of the sportscast.
Is that right?
Back
Wow.
with more of our sports right after this. We do the 4 minutes, take a break, come back, and do 5 minutes or 4.5 minutes on the other end.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, it is funny because it's such a unique town in that way that sports is news so often.
Yeah.
It's not just sports, and especially let's look at the last 2 decades.
Oh, my goodness.
What a time to be in your business.
Beyond it was great. I mean, we've seen so many things, and the people that are I have a nephew who's 21, and he's just used to championships.
Yeah.
And when I was 21. Trying to think how many, other than the Celtics, the Bruins won in 1970 and 72, but forget about the Patriots and the Red Sox. There was just fantasy land that they were ever going to win something. And
it is crazy.
Yeah.
I have a cousin that's graduating college this year, and he does not really know what it's like to
I have no
lose.
idea.
It's unbelievable.
No idea.
I remember when Aaron Boone hit that home run the year before the Sox won.
03, yeah.
I remember. I was devastated. However old I was at the time, and I remember my uncle looked at me and he goes, "Well, now you get it."
Yeah.
I was like, I earned my stripes that day.
They broke your heart again. They're going to do it again next year.
I didn't have to wait long until my grandfather was just disgusted. I remember watching the game with him. It was funny, but funny looking back on it now since we've had so much success. But what's it been like covering these last couple of decades? Because it was kind of a. It was not an ugly town, but people were salty about their sports. Things were getting ugly at Fenway some nights, or the Red Sox, and it's a whole different vibe now. It's the Sweet Caroline vibe.
Well, the theme with the Red Sox was wait till next year.
Yes.
Yeah, if they could find a way to blow it, Murphy's Law applied to the Red Sox. If something bad could go wrong, it would go wrong with the Red Sox, and the same thing with the Patriots, on or off the field. And they finally made the Super Bowl in 1980, January of '86. It was the '85 season, and they got blown away by the Bears. But I don't think that mattered because their Super Bowl was making the Super Bowl, beating the Dolphins in the AFC Championship game. The Red Sox, it's been a little bit different. Then finally, when they started winning in 04 and 07 and 13, and it was okay. We've come to expect it.
Yeah.
So what happened? For us, I would say, okay, I can't plan anything in January because the Patriots are going to be tied up from New Year's till the parade, which will be the first week in February. We can't plan anything in October because the Red Sox are going to be in the postseason. How long they're going to go? Maybe to the World Series. So, as far as your social calendar goes, well, I can't go anyplace because I'm going to be. What do you mean you're going to be tied up? Or someone would say, "Can you come speak to such and such a group?" I say, "Well, when do you want to speak?" May 12th. It could be. Celtics could be playing the Cavaliers. The Bruins could be playing the Philadelphia Flyers. I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, they're going to be playing somebody.
Think about my line of work here.
Yes.
It is true. What's the? Would you say? And this is actually, I could jump right into one of the questions I got here. What was the championship that was like kind of the? I know the Patriots got the first one, but what was the one that was more Boston meaningful? Was it that first Patriots or was it the Red Sox?
Well, for me, it wasn't even a Super. It was the game that got the Patriots to the Super Bowl in January of '86. They beat the Miami Dolphins in Miami. And my entire lifetime, from 1968 or 69 till that game in '86, they hadn't won a game in Miami. They couldn't beat the Dolphins in Miami in the Orange Bowl. And the thought of going to the Super Bowl was like a man landing on Mars right now.
Yeah. Picture that, kids.
Yeah, okay? It's just not going to happen. So I'm standing on the field in the rain, and I looked at Jack Edwards, who worked with us at the time, and I said, I can't believe the Patriots are going to the friggin' Super Bowl. And I said it 3 times.
Wow.
Now, the Red Sox, we had seen World Series in our lifetime. They lost in '67 to the Cardinals. They lost in '75 to the Cincinnati Reds. They lost in '86 to the New York Mets. So they had gotten to the ultimate in 2 weeks worth of the World Series. Celtics had won championships. Bruins had won championships. So a lot of people, I know it was a big deal in '04 when the Red Sox finally won. People go to cemeteries and put caps on their dads or grandfathers or aunt and uncles' graves. But for me, the Patriots getting to the Super Bowl, okay, they're finally legitimate. They have been the laughingstock of the old American Football League and the National Football League since their inception. So many things have gone wrong off the field. I went to the first game played in Foxborough, August 15th, 1971. Wow. It was an exhibition game against the New York Giants. And I took a bus with my father and Johnny Golden, his father, from Swampscott. We made it in time. But the toilets didn't flush because there was something wrong with the water pressure. Oh, wow. So they made an announcement that everybody go into the bathroom on 3, 3, 2, 1, and everyone flushed together, so the water pressure worked, and that's how they got
The things we remember.
Yes, yes.
Oh man, that is too funny. So mine 1986. Okay, I was not expecting that answer. I mean, that's interesting.
And it was 86 was a big year because that was the Red Sox were in the World Series that against the New York Mets.
What's it like covering that?
That was
a year before I was born. So
well, it was going to happen. They're up 5-3 in the 10th inning, I think, and we go downstairs. The game was on NBC. We were ABC. Ted Koppel was on with Nightline. We were going to break into Nightline. Breaking news: Red Sox have won the World Series. Yeah. So we're in the bowels of the stadium. My cameraman and myself, but we can't see anything. Now, there's no TVs. Right. There's no cell phone. There's nothing to tell you what's going on. It's just a concrete wallway.
Oh, man.
The Red Sox locker room door opens, and Mrs. Jean Yockey was the owner of the team, and she was a very elderly lady. She gets ushered out. Then they wheel out the championship trophy. Then Bob Costas, who was going to do Vin Scully did the play-by-play. Costas was doing the post-game interviews. He walks down the hallway. Then they wheel out about 10 cases of champagne.
They're ready to party.
I said, they're going to a bigger room down the hall. That's what they're doing. The ball had gone through Buckner's legs. I never saw it.
Oh, wow.
And then I hear the clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clack of cleats coming and some profanity, and here come the players. And I'm going, what happened? And some New York police officer had a little transistor radio. He says, the ball went through Buckner's legs. The ball went through Buckner's legs. In that New York accent. And I said, really? So I never saw the ball go through Buckner's legs until the next day on like the midday news, because that was Game 6. Yep. Then it rained, so there's no Game 7 the next day, and so the Game 7 was 2 days later, and that's all they. Of course, there's a lot to talk about in 2 days.
That is an incredible story. So you were down there getting ready for the celebration.
Ready to break into the timeline. Here's the big moment here. The Red Sox have finally done it after 80-something years, or it wasn't 86 years then. It was 86 years in 2004.
Was everybody in that boat? Was all the Boston media down there?
Yeah. Remember, we were all down there waiting to do the same thing. Nobody said, "What's happening? Why is it take? What's the innings taking forever? What? It's taking like a half hour."
Oh no! Man, that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that must have been some tough post-game interviews. I would have.
Yeah, there was. That was a lot of tears. And then that wasn't even Game 7 because now they had Bruce Hurst going in Game. Clemens got a blister. He didn't pitch Game 7, so Bruce Hurst was going in Game 7, and
they got a lead.
They did. Yeah, and he was a reliable pitcher, and when they lost that one, there were a lot of tears because they came so close.
Was that a likable group?
I liked them. You know, I liked. Gedman was a great guy. Yeah. Wade Boggs, I got along with him really well.
Interesting personality, though, right? Some people have varying stories on Wade.
Yes, he's had his off the field travails, as they say.
Yeah. Good to you.
I always like Clemens, good guy. Bob Stanley on the team. Buckner was a good guy. Marty Barrett was a good guy. Rice was tough to get along with, but Dave Henderson was great. Spike Owen was great. Dwight Evans was great. Yeah. And I liked them.
Did you ever think Rice would be in the media now?
No. Of all the people that said, he is not going to come over to the dark side, and he's over here now, and he's still a little tough to crack. He's it's got a pretty hard exterior, hard shell.
So many of those guys, and it was great the welcome back of Buckner that they had.
Yeah.
But, I know. I actually just 2 weeks ago I played golf and ended up being paired up with a guy who is now Bob Stanley's neighbor.
Oh.
And I think he just moved to New Hampshire because I think his girls are all older now and stuff. But and he's introduced himself as Bob Stanley, and they were just getting mail together on the street, and they said, the picture of Bob Stanley, and they came up, the Game 6 thing, and he goes, I got to tell you, I don't go a day in my life without somebody. I say my name and it's brought up, and it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Awkward neighbor moment, but he said it was just one of those life-changing events, and the ball through the legs, and of course he got blamed a little bit because he had the pass ball and he covered first in time.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, what a year that was!
It was beyond belief.
Really.
And there was the year that the Patriots were in the Super Bowl where they lost to the Bears, where they beat the Dolphins, the game I just talked about. The Celtics won the NBA championship against the Houston Rockets in the spring of '86, and then the fall of '86 we had the Red Sox and the Mets, and the Reds, and we also before that we had the Red Sox and the Angels in the American League Championship Series. And it's Game 5. They're down 3 games to 1, and it's the top of the 9th inning, and Dave Henderson hits a home run to win the game and to force a Game 6 back at Boston, and then won Game 6, and they won Game 7, then they go to the World Series against the Mets. So it was a heck of a year.
It really was. Yeah. That left field ball that just cleared the fence.
Got over. Al Michaels was on the play-by-play, and it is gone. And Henderson jumped up in the air, and when he came down, he twisted his ankle, so he barely made it around the bases. He was limping.
Oh, man, that's funny. Again, Mike Lynch joining us here on Afternoon Drive. Pleasure catching up on all the sports stories here, and an incredible career. I know we could go all day with stories, but who's the player you most like to cover in Boston?
What's the what?
Who's the player you most like to cover in Boston?
Love Brady.
Yep.
Love Bird.
Yep.
Love Marvin Hagler, the boxer.
Oh, okay.
All had they never varied their routine, never varied their work ethic.
Yeah.
I'd come into the Garden to do a live shot. We'd get there at the Celtics in those days would play like a 7:30 game, and we'd get there at 3:30, 4 o'clock. And Larry Bird would be out there with Joe Catato, who was an equipment guy, and Larry's just shooting 200 shots, and Joe just keeps feeding. He's the only person in the building. The ushers aren't there yet. The rats haven't even woken up from the night before.
He's not kidding, by the way.
And then when he finished, he went up, and there was a walkway between the load seats and the stadium seats, almost like a track, like an elevated track. And Larry would run laps and keep running and running. And one by one, rookies would walk in with their bags, and I wanted to grab one of them and just say, will you take a look at what he's doing there? You're walking into the building at like 5:45. This guy's been here since 3:30, 4:45, and he's one of the greatest players of all time. Don't you think you should learn a lesson from him? And you should be out here doing the same thing.
Yep.
So that's what I loved about him. Brady is Brady. We all know his routine. To me, he's he's as nice as he was the first time I met him, when he was, 200th pick or whatever, 199 pick in the draft in the year 2000. And when I still see him to this day, he turns the conversation around. I said, hey, Tom, what's up? He goes, hey, how's your golf game, Mike? I said, how's your shoulder? Yeah, don't worry about my shoulder. It'll be fine. What kind of irons you playing with? And I had a daughter, my middle daughter Molly did a semester in Florence, Italy. Yeah. So she calls me one Sunday morning, and I look at my clock. It says 6 a.m. I said, oh, something's wrong. I don't realize it's noon over there.
Yeah.
And she said, Dad, you're not going to believe this. I'm with all my girlfriends. We're getting a coffee. I look across the street, and there's this tall, good-looking guy with a Red Sox hat on, and this beautiful woman. It was Giselle. Yeah. And so I said to all my girlfriends, that's Tom Brady. Tom! And with that, we ran across the street, and Giselle grabbed his hand, and they started sprinting away. And she yells out, I'm Mike Lynch's daughter. He stopped and turned around and said, really? I said, yeah, where do you go to school? I said, I went to Boston College. Oh, wow, I went to Michigan. And he said, blah, 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 blah. I said, so what are you studying over? He spent 10 minutes with all of them. And at the end, Molly said, Tom, I hate to do this to you, but Giselle, could I have your autograph, please?
That's great to hear. It's funny. He gets some, I don't know if it's just because he's just so big now and the supermodel wife. He does find himself in some criticism.
Of course he does.
Has he ever done anything really wrong in the city? No. I mean, for a guy who's in the limelight every single, what was that thing where he jumped off his daughter? That becomes a news story.
He did it himself a couple of years ago, and they did it with his daughter Vivian this off season, and he's just a good guy. And it comes from good parenting. He has a great mom and dad, and three older sisters who, he was the little baby doll, and they dress him up in girls' clothes all the time.
He always goes out of his way to give them credit too.
He does.
Taking care of mom when she was sick, because he was playing football. And
that was pretty dramatic when she showed up in Houston the night before the game. They all took a picture together, and he broke down crying. There was a media night we had. And they had it in the Astros stadium, the Minute Maid Park, and someone said, some young reporter, from Nickelodeon always has somebody, who's your hero, Tom? And he just paused, and he started getting choked up. He said, my dad is my hero, because Dad didn't come to any games that year because he was home taking care of Jalen, his wife Tom's mother. And that's when we got okay, something's going on here, and then by the end of the week everyone knew the story, and then will she show up or not show up? And she did show up. And
a kid asked that question, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a kid. It was a kid. Yeah. And that's the game. Of course, they were down 28-3, and came back.
Unbelievable.
It was a perfect ending.
It really was.
Yeah.
What's that? Is that? Those must be something else, covering those things.
Super Bowls are pretty good. When you really feel it during the national anthem. Yeah. The teams come out in the field. Okay, here come the Eagles, or here come the Falcons, and here come the Patriots. Okay, which crowd is louder? Who has more fans here? That's the first thing you try to judge during the week. All right, who's more fans? Packer fans or Patriot fans? Rams fans, and then you'd hear it when they come out onto the field, and then the Patriots dominate with everybody. But when the national anthem plays, your heart's going. You go, I'm a lucky guy, boy. I mean, I'm here I am standing here. This is my. I've covered every one of the Patriots Super Bowl. I think there were 11 of them. And I said, I'm a pretty darn lucky guy to be here.
Yeah. Does it ever get old? The
Never,
travel
never, ever,
never
ever,
became a
ever.
drag?
Never became a drag. I'm sitting at Dodger Stadium. I said, "Can you believe this? This is the place I dreamed about as a kid. Dodger Stadium. Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale, all the great Dodger players. And I'm standing here on this field right now, and I never lose sight of it. The same thing in St. Louis with the Stanley Cup Finals this year.
Yeah.
I said, I watched this team when I was growing up, and here I am standing here.
Still bugs me that Game 7 loss.
I don't.
Better team, I thought, but I thought they did what we did to Vancouver and
absolutely
just kind of beat us up. And
it's no question. And I give Berube, the coach, a lot of credit. He came out and said we're going to start banging people and challenged the refs to start calling things. And Grizzly got a concussion, and it affected the way they played. There's no question about it.
I remember I was at I went with my dad to the Game 7 first the Lightning that the Bruins won before they won the Stanley Cup. And I went to a lot of games as a kid. I was lucky that I had a dad who would take me to a lot of games. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the loudest building that I've ever been in for that Game 7. Just it felt like from the first period, it's going to take one goal to win this game, and whoever gets it is going to the Stanley Cup. And it ended up being true. Nathan Horton obviously wins the game. I remember saying that to my dad, and he goes, "You don't remember the old Garden, though." And it was true.
The old Garden would move. You could feel it sway for some reason when it got loud. And the old Garden, if you're in the balcony, if you spit, you could almost spit directly down to the ice because it sort of hung over a little bit. Yeah. But it was there's nothing like playoff hockey because every shift is even from the first round, it feels like sudden death overtime. Yeah. It's played at just a pace that's unmatched during the regular season, and guys get hurt, guys lose teeth, get stitched, they go in lock and they're back in 20 minutes, and playing. And baseball players don't do that.
I hear you. How's Patrice? I always say Patrice is my favorite Boston athlete from
awesome.
Yeah,
all hockey guys are great. I mean, there aren't many bad guys. Hockey. They're the nicest guys to deal with of all the four major sports.
Is that the Canadian thing? What is that?
Well, I tried to think of the same thing because I spent about 3 weeks in Calgary for the Olympics in '88, and I came home. My one impression is that they're more polite than we are. They have more they have more respect for authority than we do. I'm talking about police officers, firemen, their elders, and that was my impression. Yeah, that was my impression when I came back from there. And the times that I've covered Bruins games and the Stanley Cup in Edmonton and going up to Montreal and coming back. That's my raw opinion of why they're nicer guys.
Interesting. Yeah, because you do hear that. Several people say that. Again, Mike Lynch joining us here this afternoon. I wonder, Mike, let's go back a little bit because you kind of grew up around sports and you were quite the athlete yourself. Why don't you were talking off the air with me about just you remember being on the field as a kid, just picking up balls, being bat boys, all that stuff.
Well, I was a lucky guy. It was a great way to grow up. My dad was a 3-sport coach at Swampscott, football, basketball, and baseball. So I was the water boy for football, the ball boy for basketball, the bat boy, and we played. Newburyport was in the Northeastern Conference, so I made many a trip up here to Newburyport. And it was just a great way to grow up. You're around good people every day. You learn good values and right from wrong, how to handle adversity, how to handle pressure. And, I had a lot of good memories of playing up here in Newburyport. My senior year, I was a quarterback, and I was also the place kicker. So I had thrown a touchdown pass down the closed end of the stadium. I think it's Summit Place is the road that's behind the stadium. There's houses on the hill. Yep. One end has concession stands. That's where the street is. So there was a house. I just drove by it now just to see what it looked like. Really? It's pink right now.
Memory lane.
It's pink. And so we're in the huddle after I'd thrown the touchdown pass, and all the guys in the huddle say to me, "Go for the window. There was a picture window on the second floor." And so I took a couple extra steps. I was a straight-on kicker, and I just hit it flush. This ball was flying, and you could see it. There was a woman sitting in the window. She got up and ran away, smashed the window. Oh, man. Glass shattering, falling all over the lawn, and then the frame fell out and smashed on the ground. And all the guys in the huddle and the sidelines are laughing. They thought it was funny. I immediately felt guilty. I felt so bad. So the bus ride home, everyone's laughing and talking about it. I got home, I got my pen and paper, and I wrote a letter to Jim Stalin, the coach. Dear Coach, will you please extend my apologies to the woman who owns the house? I will pay for the window or whatever. Yeah. So now fast forward to 2015, they dedicated the field to Jim Stalin. Yeah. And he's on there. So he gets out of the car with his wife, Bev, and I said, hey, Coach, how are you? He says, I still have that letter you wrote me in 1970 when you broke the window.
Oh, that is too funny.
And then as I walked in, I saw a guy named Bino was there, and another guy named Charlie Cullen, and they said, look down the end zone where you broke the window. And I looked down there, and they had the nets. They pull up. He said, we call them the Mike Lynch nets because to save the window down there that you shattered in 1970.
Oh man, that is too funny. That's fantastic. And your dad, of course, became the AD
at Danvers. At Danvers, yeah.
I live currently, and I went to school at Danvers High, and he's still very well respected. All the adults that I remember, my parents' generation, everything used to say what a great athletic director he was. A lot of years.
He was there from 73 to 88. Yeah, 16 years.
Long term for an athletic director. It's kind of a stressful gig.
It is.
People realize how stressful that can be.
Parents are the worst. With any teacher, coach, it's just the toughest thing to deal with.
So that's a long tenure to do 15 years and to be to go out with. It seems to me to be everybody liking you. That was it was quite a story from your dad there.
Yeah, he was good. He helped. They raised money to put lights up in the stadium there. Before they've redone it since then.
They've redone. I don't even recognize that school anymore.
Yeah, most schools are like that now.
Yeah,
they've done a nice job over here in Newburyport. Unfortunately, they couldn't salvage the visitor side because those stands were condemned. But the field and the home side is it's a big time stadium.
And actually, that's a good time to hit you on one of the questions there. Did you ever play football against Kenny St. Pierre from Danvers?
Kenny St. Pierre was a big, tough running back. He went to Indiana. Died a few years ago, I believe, of a brain tumor. But I was a quarterback. At first, I was a safety. Yeah. I hoped that someone else tackled him before he got to me because by the time he got to me, he had a good 15 yards ahead of steam, and I didn't want no part of him. Yeah. But he was a great, tough, hard-nosed football player and a darn good guy too.
Really,
from a great family.
You got to know him pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah. It seems.
And going to Indiana, I mean, that's a big deal from around here to go to a Big Ten school and play. So he was a great player.
Absolutely. Speaking of the hard hitting of football, that was kind of interesting to see Gronk this week. How did you catch
it was.
That? I wasn't really expecting that to go emotional.
I wasn't. He broke down, just cried, and told me how told all of us how he, almost quit during the middle of the Super Bowl. Yeah. And I was surprised. I thought he still left the door open a little bit, but I don't think he's coming back.
I don't either. You think about that. Would you have any reservations, or do you look back at your playing days and what do you think about the game of football? I mean, you cover high school football as much as anybody in the country, really. I mean, what's your thoughts on the state of the game?
It's a violent game. I think they've made great strides toward handling concussions in terms of the equipment, the helmets now that can absorb shock a lot better than the ones that we wore. They teach players much better how to tackle, not use your head, use your shoulders, and I think the rules. But if I have 3 daughters, but if I had 3 young boys right now, I'd have to think about it. Yeah. Because there's the concussions are such a serious thing, and then neck injuries and.
It used to be you get your bell rung, right?
You get your bell rung, and you come back and count backwards from 100 by 4s, and if you make it to 92, okay, you can go back into the game. That happened to me once down in Princeton. I got hit when I threw the ball, and I was sidelined, and the doctor said, my count back was 100 by 4. I said, really? I go 96, 92.
You're in.
You're in. You're good.
Oh man, well, yeah, certainly a different time. I don't think they'd allow you in these days, but crazy. This is from a great one of my best friends. His mother wanted me to ask you this.
Sure.
Candy McNeil in Danvers. What inspired you to start High Five? And of course, that's what Mike does. The high school turkey day. You eat all the turkey all day. Mike has been working all day. I want to ask you that too. When do you find time to have your turkey dinner? And then you come home and you do the recap of every high school game. I mean, you do an unbelievable job. I don't know how many people you have working. I know it's not enough. Yeah, but
they work hard.
You do an unbelievable job recapping Turkey Day. And the question is, what inspired you to start the High Five?
Well, obviously, what I'm talking about, my dad was a high school coach. I'm very partial to high school athletics. It's the last level where people play because they want to play, not because they're getting a scholarship or because they're getting paid. They play because they want to play. Right. And it's also it involves a whole community. It's not just the players. There's the cheerleaders. There's the parents. There's the band. There's the people who run the concessions.
Yeah.
In most towns, on Friday night or Saturday afternoon, when the whole town shuts down for a football game. Mm-hmm. So we were talking in the summer of '85 about coming up with something to make us distinguish us from Channel 4 and Channel 7. And I said, should we do this? Why don't we do something? Let's honor a professional player of the week. Like if Roger Clemens strikes out 10 people. Let's give him like our a high. Someone said a high five, and I said, you know what? I said, why don't we do that one better? I said, I go up and speak to a lot of Rotary clubs and Lions Club luncheons, and when questions and answers come up, the number one question is, why don't you do more in high school sports? Why don't you do more in high school sports? So I said, this is really catchy. We can use high for high school, and 5 for Channel 5. Now in those days, fist pumps and chest pumps were, and people still high-fived each other when they did something good. Yeah. So, hey, that kind of works. So the first one we did was a guy named Joe Betro, who was a running back for Walpole High School. I got some old black and white film. I read in the paper that he scored 4 touchdowns. I said, okay, we'll put him on. We send someone down, got the film, and transferred and got it on videotape, all ready to go. Hurricane Gloria hits. Oh, wow. So you know what happens when it's all weather all the time. Yeah. I said, okay, it's not going to run. They said, no, we're going to run sports today. I said, really? So we had a great audience. People were all wondering if Hurricane Gloria was going to people tune in for that. So I run it, and this week's high five, Joe Betro from Walpole High School. So I go to the sports office, and the phone, in the old days, those are the ones where the things lit up. And, it's jumping off the hook. So I said, hi, Channel 5. Hey, that was pretty good. But, we got a great running back here in Framingham. Hey, we got a great kid up here in Ipswich. Why don't you come see him? And people are actually getting mad at me. Hey, we got somebody out here in Seekonk. Hey, we got somebody down here in New Bedford. Wow. I said, wow, we got something going on here. So the next week, I don't know where we went the next week, but I say, hey, send your letters in. And in those days, people actually looked at an envelope and sent it in, and I'd have like a file folder. And then the toughest part became pick one each week. Yeah. And then I tried to geographically move it around Eastern Massachusetts, so we weren't doing everybody from Cape Ann or the Northeastern Conference. Girls' sports were just starting to make a meteoric rise, and some of the stories of some of the girl female athletes were just terrific. And then, there's no real criteria. It could be someone that scores 4 touchdowns in a game. It could be someone that overcame a debilitating injury or illness and just made it back on the field. Maybe didn't even score a point in the game, but a year ago someone thought this person might not even be alive, and now here they are in uniform and playing. Yeah. So. Each week is a different story. There's no one standard formula for it. But, I would always say, there are more good kids than bad kids out there. But all the bad kids make the news all the time. Let's put some good kids on here. And so we used to do it on Friday. But then when more schools started playing Friday night football and Friday night basketball, we moved it to Thursday so we'd have a bigger audience. Yeah. And we do it at the end of the newscast, and after all the gloom and doom and disaster that runs in a newscast, it's sort of a feel-good way to end it.
Absolutely, and it's a great. I mean, I used to love watching those things. I remember there's 2 events that I always think of with you. The high five when you came to. I remember you came to Danvers for when I was there for. Yeah. I don't remember.
I think I did the hockey team.
Hockey, the state championship, which was a wild run. Yeah. Now they went through a stretch where they were good every year, but that was uncommon. In Danvers, and there were some good storylines there. And you did the hockey team, and I remember, wow, and everybody in town tuned in. I would be shocked if somebody lived in Danvers and didn't see that. It seemed like everybody was watching. And then the other thing was the Thanksgiving football. If Mike Lynch was at your Thanksgiving game, you were the game. You were the one that the rest of the state should be watching. There he is down on the sidelines. Big game. Here we go. And the Thanksgiving thing is just, how does that day play out for you?
Well, it starts, probably a week or so. Well, now we have the sweatshirt thing, so I solicit people. Tell me why I should wear your school's hoodie. So we have 3 commercial breaks, 4 segments. So I wear 4 different hooded sweatshirts. Why should I wear the Danvers High School sweatshirt? Well, I got a great friend who's a math teacher that is retiring. Or I got so-and-so coach 40 years, he's retiring. So I solicit the sweatshirts. And then we start picking out the games. Okay, we're going to have, we've got 10 cameras. Where are we going to send the 10 cameras to? Let's send them to games that mean something or have an emotional story attached to it. Then we contact the cable companies. And then, okay, can we get, Wayland and can we get Lincoln Sudbury and Acton Boxborough? And so, I'd have guys who would drive around to police stations on Thanksgiving at noontime because the cable company was closed. and they drop it. Well, the only place that's open is the police or fire station. I'll leave it at the police station in Newburyport, and somebody from Needham would drive up and pick it and drive it all the way back. And then I'd come in and there'd be 4 or 5 people working, and okay, Lynch, I got here's the notes from and everything's just scribbled. I said, I can't read your handwriting. What does this say right here? This say, Tim Brown scores a touchdown. I said, I thought it looked like Tom Smith. No, Tim Brown. So and then you got to put the scores in the scoreboard roll. And there's about 150 scores, and we run to Mr. Touchdown.
This is before Twitter, where you have all the great...
Twitter's made it a lot easier now, and we'd call up and say, yes, we got 1 score missing. We got Beverly Salem. So we call, like, the Beverly Police Department. What was the score? He goes, I think it was 14-6. Fred, what was the score? No, it was 16-8. Are you sure? I thought they called back the 2-point conversion. I'm saying, okay, guys, we got to get it right here. So one year... we finished the show at 6 o'clock, the 7:30 show, and I came upstairs to the sports office, and the phone's ringing, and it's my father, who was the athletic director at Danvers. He said, hi, Mike. Hey, Dad, how you doing? Good. He said, great show. He says, you got 1 score wrong. I said, what was that? He says, our score. He said, you had Gloucester 6, Danvers nothing. It was the only game we won this year, and you had us losing the game.
Oh, that is fantastic. That must have been a Thanksgiving story for years to come, huh?
It still is.
So when did you ever sit down with the family? Did you guys do it on a different day? Was it a Friday thing?
Sometimes I'd have it, leftover Fridays. So I never did. They bring in some turkey. They have it catered for all the people that work in that night. So at 8 o'clock, when the show was over, we go in and sit in the cafeteria, and it's not great, but it's turkey. So I really don't have, and I don't mind. I can't tell you the last time I had it in the 70s probably, but
you have your own little tradition.
Yeah. But I'd eat turkey sandwiches from Friday through Sunday when I was home.
And you talk about all those guys that are driving around and calling police and fire stations. Like I said, it's definitely not a big enough crew, because the amount of you guys pack into that show. How long's the show?
Half hour,
yeah.
Half hour.
It wasn't long.
Yeah.
The amount you guys pack into that show, just my wheels are always going. That is a lot of behind the scenes work, and I know you guys.
We now have it. Like, we've built this. So I said one year, I said, I'd love to be able to do this show from my own family room, so I could sit there and have just sort of do the whole sportscast while I could just run to the refrigerator and get a drumstick or something. And they said, well, why don't we build a set that looks like your family room? So at first we had Jordan's Furniture. They made a deal. They got me this big easy chair to sit into, which is really comfortable, by the way. I'd love to use it every night. And they put so they got pictures of my daughters who were in elementary school, their little class pictures, and they put a piece of pie next to it. They said, this sort of looks like it. And then it started growing. So now behind me, people are sending in helmets, jerseys, megaphones, streamers from every school imaginable. Now we can't fit them all. We got Norwood, we got Walpole, we got Woburn, we got Winchester, we got Swampscott, we got Marble, we got Newburyport, Baseball Head, we got Pentucket, and it's become kind of, how many artifacts can we jam in behind Mike?
It's a good problem to have, right? People
it's awesome.
Stuff and people calling you for the high five.
Yeah.
It's you can always sort through those things. Again, Mike Lynch joining us here. Boy, we are flying by. This is a good. I always say that's the best thing when you have a guest on. You lose track of time, right? It's probably. I'm sure you've been there before. Speaking of that, what's your favorite Boston interview or favorite interview? It doesn't have to be Boston, I guess.
Doug Flutie was always great. He was, just very candid, very frank. He was young, he was in college, so he had the college exuberance. I know this sounds crazy, but Bill Parcells was great.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, he built.
It was different with the media than the
a little bit different.
Bill, huh?
Yeah, the current Bill. The current Bill I get along with great. But it's a little bit off camera. We commiserate about what our kids are doing, and
I have heard stories that this is all kind of an act, the podium thing, that he's actually a pretty funny guy.
He is a funny guy. We'd come in before we would tape a show. We're sitting there, and he'd come in and go, I said, what's the matter? He says, where'd you go on spring break when you're in college? I said, well, I played baseball, but if I didn't, I probably went to Revere Beach, or something like that. I didn't have any money. He says, my daughter's going to Costa Rica. Costa Rica? Do you believe it? Costa Rica. Why the hell can't she go someplace else? Like down to Fort Lauderdale or something like that. Costa Rica. And then we put the camera on and I said, okay, Bill. All right, Mike.
What are those ones like where it's, there have been some awkward Bill moments where.
Well, there are, especially when something bad has happened that you have to talk about, the Aaron Hernandez murder, the Deflategate, and there have been, some serious issues over the years, guys arrested for drug possession, and he just does. All the veterans and anybody that's been around even for a year or two knows that you're not going to get anything out of them. There's always somebody that comes in from out of town or a news reporter that's never been down there and thinks he could get the answer out of Bill, and it's just not going to happen. It's painful to watch. You go, oh no,
you
no,
can
no,
feel
please,
it in the room when that stuff
please
is
don't
going
ask that. Stop asking that question.
Yeah, and the reporters look. That is funny. Speaking of all those people that are in that room with you, and I know you've made friends for forever. When you were talking about Larry Bird getting there early, I remember reading the piece on Johnny Miller, who I work with over at WCVB, and it talked about how he gets to the first one to the ballpark, last one to leave, which Johnny seems to be up every time I contact him. Johnny and others, a lot of great personalities around these Boston sports teams, aren't there?
There are. Johnny Miller is one of the greatest of all time, and he's always, out of deference, he always asks the first question to the manager.
How did that start? Do you remember?
I don't know. It's sort of like Helen Thomas when she was a member of the White House press corps. Right. She always asked the first question, and Johnny Miller is so no one says anything. And usually the manager comes in and sits down and he goes, how are we all doing? All right, Johnny, what do you got? And Johnny said, could you please comment on the performance tonight by David Price? And then, we're off and running.
I remember one, I don't know, it must have been playoff time, and maybe some other reporters were sneaking in or something, and I think it was Francona. And somebody tried to jump in, and Tito said, "John."
Johnny goes first. He always goes first.
But I mean, the relationships you've met on the road and at the ballparks and
they've been great. And it's just the local guys. And when I first broke in, so many veteran guys were so nice to me. And
any in particular, you remember who kind of?
I know Cliff Keene was nice to me. Larry Claflin, they were all passed away. Joe Gigliotti of the Herald was great to me. Tim Horgan was great to me. Ned Martin, the broadcaster, was great to me. And I couldn't believe these people actually knew my name, and that they would, show me the ropes and what to do, what not to do, and I never forgot that. Never forgot that. They made me feel at ease because I was, it's intimidating, to walk into some of these places and you don't know where should I stand with the microphone. Is this somebody's spot? Am I intruding in his territory? And so.
What's the thing you're gonna miss most? I mean, you talked about the adrenaline rush and all that, but is there that kind of thing about just maybe it's the first championship or the first playoff run that's gonna happen? You know what? Oh, I should be there for that. Is there gonna be any of that?
If the Red Sox somehow sneak a wild card spot and there's a playoff game at Fenway and I'm not there, I wouldn't want to be around me. I'm not gonna be a happy guy that night. I still have my press pass. I can probably get into the game, but I want to be the guy standing on the field telling you why so-and-so is in the lineup and why so-and-so is not in the lineup. I still want to be that guy. So, I don't know when that's going to go away. And if it doesn't go away, I'm not going to be a happy guy to be around.
Well, you were the guy in this town. My goodness.
Well, thank you. Very kind. There are a lot of good guys in this town. When I first started, there were 3 stations, and there were 9 jobs. Every station had a sports anchor, a weekend guy, and a reporter. So there were 9 jobs for a long time before Nesson came in and NBC, Comcast Sports, and ESPN Boston, and all the Twitter accounts and all the other.
With all that stuff, though, the local news, there's still something special about the local news to this day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think to be successful, you have to supplement what you can find on ESPN and all the national things. Keep it local. Don't make the people go, I'm going to 849 because I've heard this before. Tell them something local that's going on.
And there's plenty of examples, too, where you can tell you watch something on ESPN and maybe how they break down a certain situation or whatever. They don't quite have it. They're missing something. They're missing they're from here. Let's see what Mike has to say. There's this, and I'm sure you've seen stories like that. And they don't know the real backstory on that. And
that's what how do you distinguish yourself from your competitors? Give it the personal touch. In the Stanley Cup in Game 5, everyone thought. Remember, Matt Grizzlick got the concussion in Game 2. He got hit from behind, and he was out, and he was skating with the red shirt, and he was skating and practicing, cleared for contact, and he's going to play in game number 5. So we're on the 4 o'clock news, and I get off the elevator. I'm running out of the men's room, because I never have my tie on when I get to the Garden. And I run into his father, John, who's been there since 67 or 68. And Grizz, I've known him for forever and ever. I said, hey, Matty, good to go tonight? He goes, not going to play.
Yeah.
I said, you kidding me? I said, everyone said, he goes, yeah, he's not going to play. He's not going to be cleared. So I come on, and I think it was Ed Harding. He said, oh, let's go down to Mike Lynch. Good news, Mike. Matty Grizzlick ready to go. I said, hold that thought right there, Ed. I just talked to his dad right outside the men's room.
Yeah.
He's not playing tonight. You're kidding me. Everyone thought he's practiced for 2 days, contact. Nope, he's not going to go. Those things are,
those relationships.
Yeah, that you have just from hanging around the rink for, 40 years or so, and standing there and just shooting the breeze with Grizz. That's his dad will always be affectionately known as.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. And so, I mean, have you ever had a story where maybe you had that and you were told you can't go with it, or a player asked you, do you mind holding that for a little bit? And you guys were all so competitive.
We were.
I know. You wanted to be the first one with it. Was there ever one that you had to kind of bite your tongue and say, can't do it?
Yep, I had that's happened a number of times. One time, I was Ron Meyer was the coach of the Patriots, and so I'm doing an interview with him, and the camera's all set up, and we're interviewing. There was a knock on the door. It was Pat Sullivan, the general manager. Yeah. He said, "Mike, can you step outside? I want to talk to Ron Meyer just for about 2 minutes." And so we step outside. We come back in, and we do the interview. We're in the car going back, and the camera says, you know what? When we stepped outside, I forgot to hit stop. I recorded. I got the whole conversation. Oh. And they're talking about who they're going to cut and who's going to make the team and a big trade they're going to make. And now, and this is the era of getting scoops. And I'm going, okay, do I or don't I? Do I or don't I? And I didn't report what I had heard because I don't know.
Would have violated something?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. But it was like I heard it all. I said, we're getting rid of this son of a gun. He's got no guts. He kills us. Look at these stats here. Everyone thinks he's making too much money. I don't want to pay his sorry salary the rest of the year for a mediocre performance. This is really good, juicy stuff.
Well, I'm sure you've seen the stories, too, of the reporter who maybe went with something like that and got locked up for it, because athletes don't really take that stuff too kindly, do they?
There's an old adage, I think it was coined by the Associated Press or UPI, and I didn't make it up, but I use it all the time, and I really hear it. It's like, get it first, but first, get it right. And it's great advice to give to any journalism students anywhere. Absolutely. Get it first, but first get it right.
Absolutely. Good advice. Mike Lynch, final couple minutes here. Sure. This has been great. We appreciate you joining us on a Thursday here. A beautiful Thursday you're giving up for us, so we appreciate that. What is the commercial?
I like Mike.
I like Mike. I mean, for the young guys, Tyler, you may not know. You're a little bit younger than me.
Yeah, but, if you Google it, you'll find it right away. It
was part of my childhood. You turn on the sports, and then this was part of the news program. You had every athlete in town, all the big names, and then there's you narrowing it. There's music, catchy song, all this stuff. How did that play about?
I was told by our promotions department, show up at the Alston Sports Depot tomorrow morning at 10. We've got a new sports promotional campaign.
That's the now Pizza Regina?
Yeah, it's right on the railroad tracks.
That was a great place. I missed that place.
Yeah. And so I said, okay. So I showed up. There's a rock band in there. There's about 20 extras, and they're all singing the song, I like Mike, I like Mike, I like Mike. And then we started mixing in, and I never asked any of them because I felt it was a conflict of interest. They started mixing in some of the pro athletes. Roger Clemens is in it. Bobby Orr is in it. Mike Eruzione is in it. Doug Flutie is in it. Larry Bird is in it. Governor Mike Dukakis is in it. And one of them, they go, I like Mike. Mike Dukakis goes, me. And then Mike Dowling goes, me. And then they all point to me. No, him. They hired a blimp. They shot it at the Garden. They shot it at Fenway. They did it on the scoreboard. And I don't know how they did it, but it was, what was I supposed to say? No? Send everybody home?
Yeah.
But I still, to this day, run into mothers who said, I had a 2-year-old son who didn't speak. He didn't speak any words. And as soon as that jingle came on, all he said was, I like Mike. I like Mike. So it worked. It helped somebody.
It was catchy. I remember singing it myself at certain times.
Yeah. People still bring it up. You can find it on YouTube, and there were three different versions over a period of about 5 years. And they keep updating. Someone will be in it, but they get traded. Yeah. So now you got to do a new version. And so it was pretty good, I was flattered.
Well, I would think so. At some point during that, are you thinking to yourself, how did I get here?
Yeah, exactly. I did. The kid from 16 Banks Road, I had railroad tracks behind my house growing up, and fantasy. I was the kid in the driveway that says, all right, Lynch dribbles left, Lynch dribbles right, he shoots, he scores! scores, he wins, this NBA championship. And then I wind up being that guy, calling these games, reporting on the games. And I've never lost sight of the fact how lucky I am.
Yeah.
And I had great parents. My dad passed away last year. I know he was an AD at Danvers where he went to school. And my mom's still alive. She's 87, as vibrant as ever. But, I had great parenting. And if you look at anybody that you think is a success story, Tom Brady's another one. Good parenting right there.
Absolutely. Dude, I always think, like I mentioned my dad during this too, always taking me to games as a kid. Is that what kind of had you hooked? Yeah,
it was pretty good. He took me to games, never forced me to do anything, just said, okay, here's something, you might enjoy. But he was always the guy, though. I always picked up Sports Illustrated. We had Time Magazine and Sports Illustrated on the coffee table. And I pick up Sports Illustrated. He said, put that down. I want you to read Time Magazine first.
Really?
And then he had a dictionary next on this little table. He says, and any words you don't know, I want you to circle it and stop and look it up in the dictionary.
No kidding. Wow.
So that always came before the Sports Illustrated.
That's a great little memory. Huh?
Yeah.
And let me. I said it earlier too. And I was playing basketball with a buddy's dad of mine. We used to play at the gym together. And he said, I told him I was having you on, and he said his father's still incredibly well liked in Danvers. It's amazing to hear. Usually you hear somebody that says something bad about somebody, and there's just none of that with your dad there in Danvers.
Well, his tactics might not be tolerated today. He was kind of,
really.
Well, he was a little firm, but that was one of the great things when he died. The letters and emails I got, and the people that came through the line. I had one guy that came through the line. He said, "You know what?" He says, "I met your dad when I was a freshman in high school. I didn't play any sports."
Yeah.
He says, "In my first semester, I couldn't even take phys ed class because I got all D's and F's." He says, "And so your father made me bring my homework every day down and show it to him." Mm-hmm. He says, "And by my senior year, I was on the honor roll and I got elected class president." He says that never would have happened without your dad. So it wasn't so much he wanted to make everybody a good football, basketball, baseball player. He cared what they did after school. And the most gratifying thing, I never said, he wasn't a big trophy collector. There's no big trophy case in our house.
Really? His
trophies were the people that became, good fathers, good employees, good employers, good citizens, and good people.
Yeah.
He never judged the success of someone by the size of their bank account or by their wallet.
Yeah.
Judged them by how they treated others and did they make the most of their ability.
Well, I think judging by the send off you got here in town, I think you had quite the same impact on a lot of people here in New England.
As I said, good parenting.
Well, you're very modest. Do you still have the stack of letters?
Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah, I keep them all. We got a big elastic around them, and they're all there.
And I bet there's some great stories. I have to. The boss is texting in here. What does she want to?
Sarah?
Sarah just wanted to say this is very enjoyable. There you go.
Oh,
so that's how I felt as well.
This is great.
When the boss texts you during the show, you want to listen and make sure,
absolutely.
read and make sure, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yes, that's great. Well, Mike, that was the fastest hour I think we've had. Blew out the commercial breaks.
Yeah.
And, that's the best thing I can say is whenever we blow out the commercial breaks, I enjoyed myself. So I thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Drew. Thanks for having me. It's great up here, and hi to all my friends in Newburyport. Played against them, and every game we played against Newburyport, good, clean, hard competition. No dirty stuff, no chirping, and I saw some great, when I came up on that 15 game, I saw Kenny Ladd, who I played against, and Billy Hale, and some of the great Clippers of all time. It's a great sports town. It is. It's a lot of great sports towns around Boston here. Yep. And I just thank you for covering it, and thank you for doing such a great job, and thank you for letting us in. We all felt the party. Good. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. We did. Thank you. Mike Lynch here on Joppa Afternoon Drive. My name is Drew Moholland. We will see you next week, everybody. Have a great weekend. Hope you enjoyed that. Very interesting. And don't forget, go to ncmhub.org if you want to find this later. Tyler does a great job getting it up. Tyler Neufeld, thank you so much. Producing. Great job, Tyler. The Fordham Ram. Fordham Ram. Have a great weekend, everybody.